Importance of ownership structure in corporate governance. Ownership structure is a critical element of corporate governance because it influences decision-making authority, management oversight, shareholder rights, and long-term strategic objectives. Around the world, ownership structures vary considerably depending on legal systems, capital market development, and cultural factors. Some companies have dispersed ownership, where shares are held by numerous investors with limited individual influence. Others have concentrated ownership, where a controlling shareholder, family, government, or corporate group exercises significant control. These differences affect agency relationships, governance risks, and the alignment of management decisions with shareholder interests. Analysts must understand ownership structures because they can materially influence financial performance, risk exposure, and corporate behavior. Dispersed and concentrated ownership models. Dispersed ownership structures are common in developed markets such as the United States and the United Kingdom. In these systems, ownership is spread among institutional and retail investors, creating a separation between ownership and control. This arrangement often leads to agency conflicts between shareholders and management. In contrast, concentrated ownership structures are more common in Europe, Asia, and emerging markets, where controlling shareholders frequently possess significant voting power. While concentrated ownership may improve monitoring of management, it can also create conflicts between controlling and minority shareholders. Analysts should evaluate whether governance mechanisms adequately protect minority investor interests and ensure equitable treatment across shareholder groups. Types of controlling shareholders and governance implications. Controlling shareholders can take several forms, including families, governments, financial institutions, or corporate groups. Family-controlled firms often emphasize long-term value creation and business continuity, but may also face succession and related party transaction risks. Government-controlled entities may pursue social or political objectives alongside profitability goals. Corporate group structures can facilitate strategic cooperation and capital access, but may reduce transparency and increase complexity. Analysts should assess voting rights, board composition, ownership concentration, and potential conflicts of interest. Understanding the identity and incentives of controlling shareholders helps investors evaluate governance quality, strategic priorities, and the likelihood that management actions align with shareholder value maximization. Introduction to ESG exposures and investment analysis. Environmental, social, and governance (ESG) factors have become increasingly important components of financial analysis because they can influence risk, profitability, reputation, and long-term value creation. ESG analysis examines how a company manages environmental impacts, relationships with stakeholders, and governance practices. Unlike traditional financial metrics, ESG factors often affect performance over longer time horizons and may not be immediately visible in financial statements. Analysts evaluate ESG exposures to identify potential risks and opportunities that could affect future cash flows, cost of capital, regulatory compliance, and competitive positioning. Effective ESG management can contribute to sustainable business performance and improved stakeholder trust. Environmental and social exposures. Environmental exposures include risks related to climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, energy consumption, water usage, pollution, waste management, and natural resource dependence. Companies operating in carbon-intensive industries often face heightened regulatory, operational, and reputational risks. Social exposures involve relationships with employees, customers, suppliers, and communities. Important considerations include labor practices, workplace safety, diversity and inclusion, product quality, data privacy, and human rights issues. Poor environmental or social performance can result in legal liabilities, regulatory penalties, operational disruptions, and reputational damage. Consequently, analysts increasingly incorporate environmental and social factors into assessments of business risk and long-term sustainability. Governance exposures and analytical implications. Governance exposures focus on the systems and processes used to direct and oversee a company. Key governance considerations include board independence, executive compensation, shareholder rights, ownership concentration, audit quality, risk management practices, and transparency of disclosures. Weak governance structures may increase the likelihood of fraud, excessive risk-taking, conflicts of interest, or ineffective oversight. Analysts integrate governance assessments with evaluations of ownership structure because governance quality often determines how effectively shareholder interests are protected. For CFA candidates, Understanding both ownership structures and ESG exposures is essential because these factors increasingly influence valuation, risk assessment, capital allocation decisions, and long-term investment outcomes.